I knew of the Ravenhood series, but I had not read it when I got an email to audition. I sort of knew how kind of big and beloved the series was. And I think at that point, it was up through One Last Rainy Day had been released. And I almost was like, oh, I don't know if I should audition for this. I knew how the books and also like the previous audiobooks were so loved. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get it. Like, this is, clearly meant for someone bigger, but I'll send in the audition because then if it's a good audition, I'll be considered for other projects, right? So I sent it in and I just like forgot about it because it was like never going to happen. And then she came back to me a while later and was like, hey, we want you to do this. And I, again, was like, oh God, should I accept this? But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm terrified of this, which means I should probably do it.
Anybody that knows me knows that I love audiobooks. So we are back with another amazing narrator interview with Chloe Ryan. She did an amazing job bringing Larissa from Kate Stewart's Ravenhood series book, Birds of a Feather, to life. And that series lives rent-free in my head. And she is a big part of that voice in my head. I'm so excited to talk all things narration with her. Chloe has narrated over 150 romance audiobooks, including books by Kate Stewart, S.J. Tilley, and Sloane St. James. She read her first romance novel in the 5th grade and has been in love with the genre ever since. She has a degree in theater, is a singer, speaks conversational Spanish, and is constantly trying to curse less in front of our kids. Isn't that relatable? Welcome, Chloe.
Unsuccessfully, usually. But
I laughed at that part, and we were talking about parenting before we even hit record. We were talking all about parenthood and the journey and the mirrors that our children are.
Oh my gosh. Raising
What a
tiny
joy
versions of
and what a hard job.
ourselves is
Yeah.
so surreal sometimes.
Yes. All the things that they pick up on, all the things that they say.
Right? I know. It's what a journey this parenthood thing is.
I'm so excited to have you and talk about narration because this is a job that I don't think a ton of people know the behind the scenes, and you hear the voices, but you don't know the people behind it. So it is a joy and an honor for me to be able to sit down with you and fabulous other narrators and authors and get to know them a little better. So for the people that have never met you before or seen you before, can you share a bit about your journey? I know I shared a little bit in your bio, but what brought you to where you are now?
Sure. So I spent many, many years working in theater education specifically. I have an undergrad degree in theater and a master's degree in arts administration and cultural policy. So I spent over 20 years working with young people, doing devised theater, working with students with and without disabilities, creating theater together. And that was wonderful and really fulfilling. And I really, really was very passionate about it. And still am passionate about it, even though I don't do it. But and then I had a job that sort of shifted where I wasn't actually working with students quite so much, and I was feeling a little kind of unfulfilled artistically and creatively. And so I came across an article that talked about people narrating audiobooks from home. And I have this theater background. So I, was a performer for, I performed in college and a little bit after. I have been a romance reader since I was maybe too young, some might say, but I think, it all worked out okay. And I had actually explored voiceover a little bit sort of earlier in my 20s, right after I graduated college. I lived in New York City and I took some classes and I was thinking about trying to give it a go. And then we moved and, kind of was one of those in another life things. And so I read this article and I was like, oh my God, what if I could use, my theater degree and I could read books that I wanted to read anyway and get paid to, perform romance books into a microphone? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And so I did a bunch of research and I kitted out a closet with the mic and soundproofing and all that stuff, and set up a profile on ACX, which is, for folks who don't know, sort of a marketplace for indie authors to find narrators. Authors post auditions, narrators create profiles and submit auditions. And I was like, let's just see what happens. And so I did it. And an author that I already was a fan of, Stacey Kennedy, had just posted auditions for 2 books. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was like, this will never happen, but what if I just audition? Like, what if? And then she was like, yeah, I want to hire you. And I was like, oh my God. And so that was, yeah, it was like unbelievable. Because I think it was literally the first audition that I submitted. And then I was part-time for a really long time. I was still doing my nonprofit work. I was still, for many, many years. And then eventually last year, actually, I was able to finally pivot and make this my full-time gig. So it was a lot of factors throughout my life that kind of led to that moment. And then it's been amazing. Here we
I
are.
love that you shared it was this what if, and you did it. You did it scared. You said, I'm just going to. It
Mm-hmm.
would be amazing to work with this author. And I feel like my life is a whole series of what ifs and maybes and just try it things and find out.
Right.
And it has opened doors to things that I never imagined. Like this YouTube channel is just kind of like, okay, I love books. Let's do it. And then I get to talk
Like,
to
what if
people.
you just did it? And like,
Yeah.
what could happen? I think that's sort of, this was a big thing I was debating with myself last year too, when it was like, okay, is now the time to like really try and make this the full-time gig? Because for so long I had that steady paycheck and I had that insurance, and it was really easy to just like stay in that safe lane. But it was like, okay, so my fear is I fail, right? Like, people hate it, people stop hiring me, I never, but like, what if I don't, what if I don't fail? And that was what really, and I also think about my kids, talking about parenting, and like the example that I want to set for them, which is like, chase your dreams, like, and failure's okay, like we're all going to fail at things at some point, right? And some of them are bigger than others, and some of them are higher stakes than others, but like, wouldn't you rather try and like, worst case, fail than like never have tried at all? And that's what I really, because I'm such a risk averse person, and I really struggled with the idea of like being a freelance career. And but it's like, but what if you don't fail? What if you succeed beyond your wildest dreams? Like, wouldn't, isn't that what we all want? So yeah, it's hard, it's really hard to get out of that
Oh, yeah.
scared mindset. And
Yeah.
I still
Oh,
struggle with that all
yeah.
the time,
Yes.
every day. Yeah.
100%.
Right. Yeah.
And we talk about failure all the time at home as well, because it's like we shouldn't be afraid of failure because that means we're doing something that we care about. We're learning something from every
Yes.
failure too. You
Yes.
get better, from each of those things. It's just a perspective shift in how you approach things. So yeah. I want to talk a little bit
It's
about the
important.
narration
Yeah.
process because now that you
Sure.
are full time, like what does a
Yeah.
day in the life look like for you? You're in the booth.
Mhm.
I just realized behind me is a mess because my children are right here.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. I was looking at your beautiful bookshelf, but I honestly, I didn't
Oh,
even see the
yeah, people
the
don't
kid
look
stuff,
at the
but
mess that my children left. For people listening on audio, then they can't see that. But
it's great.
what does a day in the
I
life look
mean,
like for you?
if I opened my door, you would also see my child's mess. So, yes, so a day in the life is, I mean, it's pretty structured at this point. I will say that's been part of the learning process for me, because this used to be a like evening and weekend kind of gig, and since I've been full time now, this is, my full time. So I do try to get, when I can, when I have time, I try to get a little physical activity in the morning, because I find that helps keep me focused. So I love doing walks, or even just like a little bit of, like, if I can't get a full weight, trying to do like 10 or 15 minutes of yoga or some quick calisthenics or something, just to try and get some physical activity in, because I sit all day. And so then it's, usually I've got a morning chunk and an afternoon chunk, and I have goals of sort of how many minutes of finished time I'm trying to get. So, that's how I have a whole big calendar. I have a wall calendar outside, and then that's the month. And then I have a week calendar like glued to the side of my booth. So I have it mapped out pretty specifically of kind of how many finished hours each day I'm trying to get done on which project. And I take a break for lunch. My husband works from home, so I like to like see him and hang out a little bit. I will say the summer has been hard, because we usually, our kids are in aftercare until like 5, and summer camp schedules are different. So I'm trying to sort of, I'm getting my finished hours in. I also sometimes get like pickups and auditions, and if I want to make content for social media, I have to make time for that. So sometimes my schedule gets a little off. And then with the kids being home earlier, I've been doing a little bit more kind of catching up after kid bedtimes. But yeah, but mostly I'm I'm trying to stick to my schedule. I'm trying to, because I have, pretty firm deadlines from publishers. Publishers are lovely people, and if things go awry, you can usually tell them that. But I want to get my work done on time and be responsible and all that. So I'm trying to stick to my schedule pretty strictly. But yeah, and then I often will do my prep like in the evenings or on the weekends, be reading, things like that. So yeah, but it's pretty structured at this point.
When you talk about finished hours, can you share a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about what that looks like for you? I know for people it looks very different between, the prepping and how many finished hours versus how much time is spent for all of it. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's something that people might not realize is that there is, for every sort of finished hour that they listen in their ears, there is time for prep. There's sort of extra time in the booth spent flubbing up and re-recording and things like that. So prep time is, sort of before you start recording. So that's a couple of hours to read the script, highlight, I like make notes of words that I might need to look up or like want to double check with my co-narrator. Do we say this the same way? Do you say aunt and I say aunt, or like vice versa, that kind of a thing. And then once I'm in the booth, I usually it depends on the script. So if it's like a light, fun rom-com, I'm usually about 2 hours of time to one finished hour, because I'm starting and stopping when I say the wrong word or use the wrong voice or things like that. Need to take a break. If it's like a romantasy or a book that has a lot of has like accents or foreign languages, things like that, that can bump up. Usually it's like 2.5, could even be 3 hours of time to one finished hour of audio. So it depends. If you're recording in duet style, it's longer because I have my chapters. I have to leave time for the male narrator's lines. Oh, I just gave myself a thumbs up there. um, and then I also have to record what we call them wild lines, which is the dialogue that my character have in different chapters. So it's all very dependent on what the piece is, to be how long it takes to record and then to get that finished time. So but yeah, it's not just as easy as like sit down, say it, and it takes an hour and you get an hour. I wish it were, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a process.
So it sounds like you, as far as prep goes, you go through, you kind of look through and highlight, you might make notes. Do you read the whole book
Mm-hmm.
or do you just kind of skim, scan?
It varies now. So I used to be very religious about like I read every line of every book and I was highlighting the characters in different colors and I was making notes and I was marking where there was a big emotional beat change and things like that. At this point, I feel comfortable enough, especially if it's an author I've worked with before or if it's a series that I've already done a couple books. I will usually sort of just read for content, because I can go back and refer to like character voices that I've used before, or I sort of know I'm much more familiar with an author's sort of voice, so it just kind of comes out a little easier. If it's a brand new book, or if it's like a romantasy, or if it's recording in duet, then I'm much more sort of diligent with. I'm highlighting, I'm making notes, that kind of a thing. So it kind of at this point it depends. I sometimes do hire a prepper who will read for me and send me a spreadsheet with kind of all the important things and like summarize the plot and the characters and make a note of like, oh, this person has an accent, but it didn't say it until the 17th chapter, so make sure that in chapter 3 you're using the right accent, kind of a thing. So it's at this point it's a time thing where I want to be able to like sit and read everything, but sometimes I now will either get it prepped or I sort of read for content and then I'm okay because I'm familiar with the world or the author and I can kind of dive in. So now it's a little bit more dependent on the actual book.
And I never knew there was a thing as a prepper. I guess I should have
Yeah.
expected that.
Preppers are amazing. They
A
do
cliff
so
noter.
much incredible work. Yeah, it's basically, I mean, yeah, it's somebody to and people like to build relationships with their prepper, and they work with the same prepper for years and years, and you get to know people really well. And especially like when a prepper has been on a series, they can really like their shorthand and stuff. But yeah, it's a really really helpful job for people to do. So side note, if anybody loves reading and books and audiobooks, and people are always looking for good preppers, so that's a thing people can
Oh
do.
man. I'm like, do I want a career change?
Right?
Oh, that's
It's
so,
pretty fun.
you never know. Like all these things, there's so many jobs for everything. I think none of us realized how many things are out there now, especially with social media and all the things,
Mm-hmm.
But
Totally. Yeah.
yeah. So for doing all of the prepping, the reading, does the reading ahead of time help you? Because I don't know if you're a crier, but I am. And I can't imagine being a narrator, especially for like Kate Stewart books that just mess me up in fabulously emotional wrecking ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine narrating that in any reasonable amount of time. How do you go through the emotions that come with the performing part of it?
Yeah. So everybody's a little different, right? And everybody has a different style. And some folks are very much sort of like straight read, like really pretty, pretty kind of clear cut, even if it's a intense moment. I cannot do that. I don't, it's just how I'm built, I guess. Maybe it's having a theater background, or it's just because I've been like, because when I read as a reader, I cry also. And so, yeah, absolutely. When I get in the booth, I'm a big crier. I'm a big crier. It's hard. It is actually really hard because you want to feel the emotion as authentically as possible, right? And you want to really like convey with your voice what the character is feeling. And you also have to like speak clearly, you have to enunciate, you have to like, like there's also the technical aspect of you're still narrating an audio. Yes, you're performing it, but you're also narrating it for clarity and for ease of listening. And someone just like sobbing in your ear for 10 minutes during an emotional scene is not what people want to listen to. So there's a balance, and I have certainly had to, a little bit of like sort of tear emotion, like crying, I think comes across as genuine and authentic. But when it gets to the point where I can't get words out, I have certainly had to stop, leave the booth, blow my nose, sometimes even just like go outside and like get some fresh air before you come back and try and get back into it. But yeah, I mean, birds of a feather. I remember I was also coming off being sick. It was in December of last year that we were recording, and it's duet, so it takes longer. And that was like I was so emotional. I was still not feeling great. I knew, like, I had the pressure of like narrating a Kate Stewart book. I knew like what everybody was waiting, like it was a really hard, really challenging book to narrate. But yeah, but I often have to like just stop and get out and try and come back to it, because I will absolutely sob my way through emotional stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ways I could go with this, but since we're talking about Birds of a Feather, can we talk
Hmm.
about how it came about? Were you a Kate Stewart fan before? Were you aware of the Ravenhood series? Um, it sounds like you felt the pressure, the
I
fandom.
did. I did so much. So I knew of the Ravenhood series, but I had not read it when I got an email to audition from a lovely casting director at Podium, who I work with Podium a lot, and she sent me an email, and I immediately was like, "Oh, I know this." It triggered something, and so I hadn't read it, but I sort of knew how kind of big and beloved the series was. And I think at that point, it was up through One Last Rainy Day had been released. And I almost was like, oh, I don't know if I should audition for this. Like, this feels like really scary. This feels really like big. Like, I knew how the books and also like the previous audiobooks were so loved. And it was like, oof, I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get it. Like, this is, clearly meant for someone bigger and, better than me. And I was like, but I'll send in the audition, because then if it's a good audition, I'll be considered, tomorrow will think of me for other projects, right? That's kind of always how I think of auditioning, is like, even if I don't get this, like if I make a good impression, then, my name might come up again for something else. So it's like, I'll send in the audition. There's no way I'm going to get this. So I sent it in, and I just like forgot about it, because it was like never going to happen. And then, yeah, and then she came back to me a while later and was like, hey, we want you to do this. And I, again, was like, oh God, should I accept this? I don't know. This is going to be like so. I felt that pressure because I knew, I'm in the romance world. I'm also a reader and a listener. And, but it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm terrified of this, which means I should probably do it. And then it actually, so I got cast so long ago that she was actually going to be, it was going to be Birds of a Feather first and then Severed Heart, because it was Severed Heart was going to be a novella at that
Yeah.
point.
And
Love
we
you,
know
Kate,
how that
but
turned out. It's giant.
So the novella was gonna, so then it swapped. So I got cast before she had actually finished Severed Heart, because the order was originally planned to be different. And so I want to say, I think 2 years. I went back and like Birds of a Feather came out in May, and I think it was like 2 years previous in May is when I was cast. And so I obviously at that point dove into Ravenhood. I remember like that summer that I was cast, like listening to all the audiobooks and I was like doing the tandem reading and listening, and obviously became obsessed, and then just kind of had to wait and so and like keep the news to myself, which I would like a lot of credit because I wanted to tell everyone I'd ever met my entire life. But yeah, and so I just was waiting for the moment, and then got the script last fall and like immediately devoured it and all of that. So I'm a huge Raven now. But yeah, before I was cast, I had not read it, but yeah, now I'm part of the flock.
Yes. So it's fascinating because I interviewed Anthony Palmini a little while ago, and he had never heard of ACOTAR. Like he had kind of heard of it, but never
Mm,
knew how big it was. And I think he would have also had the same. He said, I'm glad I actually didn't know because otherwise it would have been very intimidating, which you
yeah.
were saying it is, hard to go into a
So
series that is so loved.
so scary, right? And like I get it because I also feel that passionately about, the books that I love and now this series and everything. And so I have absolutely get it. And also it's terrifying because like, people can be mean on the internet, and I'm a delicate, fragile actor flower. Like it's like, I don't want people to be mean to me. I mean, everything is subjective, right? I get, my narration, my voice is not for everyone, but like people can be real mean. So I was a little worried,
Especially
but
when they're
everyone has been
anonymous,
lovely.
especially on the internet. It's
Right.
so, yeah.
It kind
People,
of
they're
emboldens
people
people.
too. That's right.
Right. There's somebody behind that, like, Instagram account.
Yeah.
Like yeah, but
Which is
everyone
also
has
why I
been
love
so
doing these
lovely.
because people do get to know you better and to understand that there is a human, and there's
Mm-hmm.
being the human versus all the AI stuff that is
Right.
coming up. But I know you
Yeah.
mentioned this one was duet, and so it took a little bit longer. Can we talk a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
that too? Of
Sure.
what does that process look like? Because you're not in the booth together, you're recording
Right.
separately most of the time, right? I think there are some cases
Mm-hmm.
where people can be in the same studio or whatnot, but for the most part, in your experience, I'm guessing it has been separate. And then you send,
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it will work out if you are recording around the same time. You might be able to hop on, Zoom or Riverside or something similar to at least record in a synchronous way. But yeah, I would say like 90 to 95% of the time for those duet books, everybody is doing it on their own, and so we have different producers like it in a different way. Sometimes they want you to just sort of leave silence where the dialogue goes. I often use a dog clicker. Actually, it's just like the little. I probably have it somewhere, but anyway, and it just makes like a really little like kind of loud click. So that's how I usually do it, where I'll be recording my lines, and then there'll be a male line, and I'll just give it 2 seconds, and I'll do the click, and I'll give it 2 seconds, and then I'll keep going as though I heard that line. And then also, going in and doing the dialogue, the wild lines as we call them, which is the female characters' dialogue in the male POV chapters. And so, in some ways, it's really fun because you get to like be in the whole book, so to speak. You're really it sometimes it feels like a more complete narration experience because you are actually contributing to like every chapter, every scene that the female characters are in. But it is also tough because when I do a solo or duel, I'm I'm performing every line, right? I'm embodying the male narrators, and I'm kind of playing off myself, if that makes sense, right? So if there's like a flirty banter scene or a sex scene or something like that, right? Like it's all there to sort of respond to, or it's all coming from me, but it's all there. But there, when you're recording in duet style, you have to really kind of you have to sort of know what your co-narrator's style, interpretation might be, and hope that you're responding appropriately and you're giving the same vibe. And is he coming off as like pissed off and you're doing it as like flirty, or like vice versa, or and it's awkward, when you have to, like, there are times when it's a chapter with, like, a love scene, a sex scene, and you're literally, all you're recording is like moaning or groaning, or and like it can be a little hard. So yeah, it is a unique challenge. It's really fun. I love recording duet, and also it's really yeah, it can be really it can be really tough if you don't know your co-narrator, like their style or their performance well. It can be kind of tough. So, but yeah.
How do you approach it if it is a new co-narrator? Do you get together
Mm.
with them ahead of time, or like at least have some sort of, Zoom meeting, powwow?
Sometimes I think I've been able to do that a couple times in my several years doing this, but usually it's over email. So I often, before I start recording, if it's dual and I know that I'm going to have to perform male dialogue, I will often go to Audible, or excuse me, or their website, and listen to samples so that I can get kind of an idea of their sort of their tone. Like, are they like a really gruff, growly guy? Are they like more kind of mid range? Their cadence a little bit, like how quickly, like how fast is their narration? Like, are they like super speedy and I need to like speed up a little bit, or do they like take their time? And just kind of, try. I'm not like trying to impersonate them, or, like it's not going to be, I'm not going to like trick a listener into thinking that they are suddenly listening to the male narrator, but just to sort of match the vibes, as the youths would say, and so that it's not such a jarring experience going back and forth from a male POV chapter to a female POV chapter. And then we'll collaborate on pronunciations if there are characters that come up for both of us that we're both voicing. We might send voice samples or notes back and forth of like, this guy's a real like Keanu Reeves kind of vibe, and this is like a real Kristen Chenoweth kind of, and like just try to, again, it's not like impersonation. We're not trying to like exactly be the same, but just, like, so it's not,
It
there's
flows.
not somebody that's like, yeah, there's not somebody who's like super deep and growly on their end, and then I'm doing them as like kind of nasally and up here, and it like sounds like a totally different character, and no one would ever know it was the same kind of a thing. So, yeah, so you want to, best case scenario, you want to collaborate when you
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
When you were talking about Birds of the Feather, you were saying it was a tough time in a lot of different ways, but partially because you were sick too. And as a narrator, obviously your voice is very important. Do you
Yeah.
have any sort of practices, routines, quirks that you do to protect,
Oh my
especially with
gosh.
children that bring home all kinds of germs?
Girl, I do so much. It's seriously, so I discovered, I guess last year, maybe a year and a half ago, I kept losing my voice. Like, I would get even just the tiniest cold and my voice would just be gone. And so I eventually got diagnosed with a reflux condition called LPR, which I'm not going to be able to say correctly. It's laryngophenyl something. I'm probably saying it wrong. But basically, it's when your reflux comes. So, GERD is when your reflux comes up to your esophagus, and LPR is when your reflux actually comes all the way up into your larynx. And so kind of the worst possible thing that a voice actor could have. And so I did speech therapy. So I'm on meds now. I have totally changed my diet. I sleep with like a wedge pillow. I drink alkaline water. I do all this stuff. And then I have a whole kit of stuff to sort of like coat my voice. I use a steamer on my voice when it starts getting dry, because I am deathly afraid of losing my voice now, but now I'm a little bit more proactive with it. So it has been better. But so I do some really gentle warm ups. I have some like massages that I do when I start getting tired. I have so many things because this is my job now. This is how I like make a living. And if I don't have my voice, I can't work. So yeah, so I have like a whole medicine cabinet full of throat coat and lozenges and sprays, and I take stuff before I go to bed because that's when it's the worst. It's like a whole operation over here to try and keep my voice healthy. And when I do start to lose my voice, I do, my kids are now used to me doing like vocal rest, and so we do, like, if mama's sick, like they know that, like, I'll tell them in the morning, like, okay, I'm not talking today. And so then like the whole day, it's actually, it can be kind of a fun game where I'll sort of like mouth something. If my oldest can figure it out, he'll tell my youngest, or I'll like, write it out and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's a whole thing to try and keep the instrument healthy, because that's my livelihood now. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny. We met at Spicy Reads, right? I
We
went to the
did,
event and we
yeah,
got to meet.
San
And I was like,
Diego.
do you want to be on the thing, or on the channel? But I was listening to the panel, and I think it was Patrick that had mentioned, because he has kids too, and when they get
Mm-hmm.
sick, it's like, sorry, wife, this is you. I need to protect
Yeah,
my voice and everything that comes with it, because illness is real, especially when you have young
it's
children that
so
put everything in their
real.
mouth and touch everything.
They're little petri dishes, like,
Yeah.
it's just constant. And like, and the crazy thing is they'll have like a runny nose, or maybe they'll like cough for a couple days, and then it hits us and it's like I am down and out for a week and I've lost my voice and I can't, it's like, it's so, they just like boop, 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 bounce right back. Five colds in a month, it's fine. And for us it's like a grain of sand and a microchip, to borrow a Parks and Rec reference. But yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
What have you found most exciting about the narrator community? Because it
Hmm.
can be a pretty isolating job, right? As you're saying, where a lot of the time is spent in your booth. What have you found that is encouraging from the community?
It's so funny that you bring this up because I have been reflecting on this a lot in the last few months. So I've been narrating for a long time, but I was part-time for a long time. And so I just sort of now have sort of put all of my time and energy into cultivating relationships in this. I had met people and I had gone to events, but I was very much like treating it, sort of as a side gig. And I went to the Audio Awards in March in New York, which is our big like awards show for audiobooks. And I went with a couple of friends of mine, other female narrators, and we shared rooms and we were there for a few days. We did some workshops and just met a ton of people. And then I went to San Diego recently and did this event and got to spend a lot more quality time with other narrators than I really have before. I've done like small events before where it was just kind of like, oh hey, great to see you. We spend a few hours at a table together, and it's like, bye. We'll talk online. And I remember I came home from San Diego and I was telling my husband how it went, and I was like, I have never felt the level of support and like uplifting that I get from other narrators. And specifically, I want to shout out other women, femme narrators in this community are so incredibly generous, gracious, like it's such an uplifting community to be a part of. And it's not only sort of, yes, people will like post encouragement on like social media stuff, but it's the group chats and it's the like, oh my gosh, this thing happened to me. Has this happened to you? And like, oh my gosh, yes, you're not crazy. Or like, this producer has definitely like blown me off. It's like, it's all the sort of like insider, like your colleagues, right? All that stuff that you would chat about around an office cooler if we still had those, at an office job. But it's like, it's such an amazing group of professionals who are the epitome of sort of like a rising tide lifts all boats. It's, sure, there's competition and sure, you lose out to jobs to people sometimes, but overall, the amount of like support, coaching, cheerleading, pulling you into projects, giving you work when somebody's not able to do it, or recommending you. I mean, it's really, it is incredible. And it is, I worked in the nonprofits for over 20 years, and I think that kind of industry has a reputation of like, oh, you do it because you love it. So like people get, it's like a family, right? But like I I have never felt the level of just like joyous support and like genuine encouragement and just like love and generosity that I have found in the narration community. So it's been really really amazing. And yes, I sit alone in this little 4x4 square all day, but I also am like texting and group chatting. I like body double with several narrators now, where we're all like working, but we all get on Discord and just like seeing people working in the booth, and it just like keeps you going, right? It's like, oh, I can't stop. I got to finish this because like three other people are still working. Like I can do it. Like, right. And it's really incredible. I cannot shout the shout the praise and accolades to the narrator community more than I could, because it's been incredible. So yeah, huge love to all the narrators. Yeah.
That's fascinating that you mentioned you have like a screen where you share your working. It's like co-working,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and you
exactly.
found a way to do it with technology, and that's amazing. I love that. Your
Hmm.
accountability and inspiration
It's
and all the
so
things.
helpful. It's really recent for me. I just I would say in the last like couple months, like found a group, and now I do it like every single day. As soon as I start, I'm logged in, I'm on the screen if I'm doing it late at night. And sometimes it's just me. I'm just like in the room by myself, but like you never know when somebody might pop on and stuff. But it's so helpful because it just helps you feel not so alone. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I have also noticed that because since I moved and I ended up going back to the old team that I've worked with, but now I'm not exactly with them. We're on the same team, but I'm the only
Ah,
one in the office down here. And my work besties are there, but we can still message each other and we still are able to talk to each other, or maybe we'll do a video chat or something, so that it
yeah,
feels like we are closer. But it makes a difference to have people that you really enjoy working with,
absolutely.
or that keep you accountable, or all the things. So I love that you found that little community
Yeah.
that supports.
I mean, like, remote working and working from home is so incredibly awesome in so many ways, and like, flexibility and autonomy and all that. But yeah, you do feel kind of removed from other humans. And I used to do, yeah, like a Zoom coffee date, or, when I was working in my old jobs. And you need that face to face, even if it's on a screen, time to just feel connected. And it's really important.
Is there anything else that you want to share with audiobook listeners? Like, this is something you might not know about the industry or about the job.
Ooh,
Big question.
that is a good question. So many things. I feel like it's like insider baseball here. I mean, I will say, let's see. Hmm. I will say, I think it's important for listeners to know a couple things. First thing I will say is that um, don't cancel everybody on a project. There are times when we do not get an option as to who we're working with, or even an author, things like that, right? Because this is sometimes some people have the ability to say no and refuse projects, but not all of us do. And sometimes we say yes to a project and then things change. So I will say, be kind, be gentle. You can hold people accountable for bad behavior, and that's great, and I encourage that. But don't lump everybody in on a project together, because there is not always choice. And the other thing I would say is, I mean, this is an incredible job. I think I feel so lucky every day that I get to like wake up and that this is my job, and that this is how I, support my family, and I get to, read these books and perform them. And it's also really, really hard. And I think some people, like, it comes across maybe as like, oh, like what a fun, breezy, easy job to just sit in a booth and record. But this is the hardest I have ever worked in my life, I think, because it is physically demanding. You have to be locked in and laser focused all day, all the time that you're recording. There is no sort of like half phoning it into a Zoom meeting and like you're also multitasking and doing other things. It is like it is like emotionally draining and physically exhausting. And it's hard to get your work, and you got to hustle, and you got to like, pound on producers' doors, metaphorically, on their email to try and get work. It's really tough. You are also like running a small business essentially. So not only am I performing, but I'm also doing all of my accounting and my bookkeeping, and figuring out like what tax status I need to do, and also like marketing and reorganizing my website, and all that stuff. So there is the really fun part of it, but it's also much less glamorous than it appears. So I just, it's a job like all other jobs. It has its pros and cons, but it's a lot of work. It is not easy. And yeah, so I guess that's just what I hope people understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if people have questions, feel free to drop them, and we'll
Yeah.
approach it somehow. Maybe I'll send it
Mm-hmm.
over to you.
My
If you're willing,
DMs are open.
yeah,
Yeah,
people
totally.
are always welcome to drop questions. Are there any projects you're super excited about that are coming up that you're allowed to talk about?
Ooh,
I know, things like Birds of a Feather where you couldn't talk about it for 2 years.
I know.
Are
It
there
was
any
so
that you're
hard,
super
Amy.
excited
It was
about?
so hard. Yes. So something that has been announced is I'm about to start recording the second book in the Black Rabbit series by Sloane St. James. So the first one was Of Ink and Alchemy, and the second one is of Karma and Corridors. And I literally just got the like folder yesterday with the script, and that starts in a couple weeks. So I am super, super excited about that. I love Sloane St. James, and I narrated two books in her original series. I actually narrated the first book she ever wrote, and from the Lakes Hockey series, and I've just been such a huge fan of her since. And she's kind of, I think, very rightfully so, kind of blowing up and getting lots of amazing publicity, and getting like things republished in trad and all that stuff. And she's amazing, amazing. So I'm super excited to do that. And I think the other thing I will plug, it's already out, but was really lucky enough to do Volick by S.J. Tilley, which is her new vampire series. So Sean Masters and I did the first one, and she's doing a different narrator pair for each one, but we do get to pop up a little bit here and there in book two. So that will be out. Book two will be out soon. Book one, Volick, is already out. So I again love SJ, and did a previous series for her, and have actually now like gotten to meet her, and we're friends, which is lovely. And she's awesome, and her writing is awesome, and it's really, really beautiful to be able to come back to authors in different series, and bring new life to their work, and see them just you know hit it big, and it's amazing. So yeah, I'll plug those too.
And I like that you touched on the fact that you did get to meet her, because not all the time, or it's not all the time, right, that you get to interact with the authors. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's just a quick, how do you pronounce these, or how do you want me to pronounce these things? Um,
Hmm.
so
And actually, we often, usually, if there is any kind of like meeting or connection, it's after the work is complete, because the producers, the publishers, very much control the relationship, and they can. So if I get cast in something, it's actually very much frowned upon for me then to sort of like go to an author's DMs or email or anything about the work. I now feel comfortable sort of like after I've recorded, but going to them being like, oh my gosh, I loved this. This was amazing. Thank you so much. But the producers really do try to act as the intermediary. So yeah, so then it's usually after the fact, and it's so rare that we get to meet in person. It's usually like an Instagram DM, just being like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. But I've met a few folks in person now, so that's really, really lovely. I would love to get to meet Kate. I have not gotten to meet Kate or Sloane yet. But yeah, I got to meet a few other folks that I've narrated for. Actually, a couple in San Diego, which was great. I got to meet CR Jane, which was lovely, and yeah, a few other folks. So it's so nice to get to hug people in person and be like, oh yeah, you're great.
in person is really, especially after COVID, I've such an appreciation for it.
Oh my
Try and
gosh.
not take it for granted.
Absolutely. It's so lovely. And like reading somebody's words aloud is it's obviously they're putting it out for the world to see, but it can feel very, like, feels very connecting, and it feels very, there's like kind of an intimacy there, right? Where it's like you thought up these words and I'm saying them. And so there's a little bit of a, um like, I don't know, it feels like we're a team in some way. Obviously it's their work, but like you get to sort of like do your little bit to it. And so yeah, it's really lovely when you get to connect with authors and get to hug them and tell them how much you love them. Is usually what I usually end up fangirling because I am a fangirl myself, so it's great. Hopefully I don't scare them off.
Well, as an audiobook listener, I really appreciate that you all bring it to life because as a mom, as we've been talking about, as a working mom, like there's no way I would read as much as I do without audiobooks, and
Hmm.
they're
Yep.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
and as my kids,
Ugh.
I've gotten my kids a little more into audiobooks because they
Yeah.
still like me reading out loud to them, but my voice, I have a very huge appreciation for you all because my voice after like 30 minutes is like shot, and with all the voices and all the things. But I appreciate that they want me to read with them still. So I will continue to do that, but
Yeah.
mix it in with the audiobook version, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. Give them a little bit of mama reading, and then yes, then they can push play. But yeah, I think it's so, I am so firmly on the audiobooks are reading. Like, I don't even entertain any other opinions on the matter. But I think that's such a great way to get kids reading. My son is super into podcasts. Most of them are like short story, kind of fictional story format. But yeah, as he's getting older, we're doing like road trips and stuff, and I'm trying to like find books that we can listen to as a family. And like, isn't that an amazing thing to get to share with our kids and like, foment this love of reading? And it's so important. It's so vital, I think.
We started doing a mom son book club essentially, like my kids and I, and
Stop, I love that idea. Oh
like
my
we said,
gosh.
okay, once a month or like at least one book a month, we're going to read it together because we do have a
Hmm.
lot of stuff going on. But if we can read something together and be able to talk about it, and whew, we had some good conversations about some of these books.
Oh my gosh, you have to send me what you've done so far.
Okay.
My oldest is a little younger than yours, but we're kind of getting to that point. So I would love any recommendations that you have
Oh,
of books that have
I will
been
be happy to send you the ones that we have
impactful.
absolutely loved, and some have been
Okay.
about like social media use. And as these things
Mm.
come up, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
reading it in book form versus mom telling you or dad telling you, it hits a
Haha.
little
Yep.
different. So
Yep.
it's been great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea. That's amazing. I'm gonna steal it. Sorry.
So we can talk
Sorry, not sorry.
forever, but
Please
I
don't.
want to be mindful of your time and your voice because you have a lot of work to do too. And now I
It's
know a
true.
lot more
I
about what you do to
literally am
protect
gonna
your
like
voice.
click out of
Uh,
this and go back to recording. But yes,
yeah.
this is so fun.
So I have a few quick fire questions if you're open to it.
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right.
Yep, I'll try and be speedy.
I'll do a few. Okay.
Okay.
What is one thing on your bucket list that you would like to do next?
Ooh, my bucket list is usually travel related. I love
Same.
traveling. Yes, so much, and it's so much harder now that we've had kids. So I turn 45 next year, and I think we've wanted to do an Italy, Greece vacation for a long time. And originally it was going to be like me and my husband kind of, birthday anniversary trip. But I think we're going to actually try and take the kids next year. And because my son is super into ancient Rome and ancient Greece. And so I think hopefully, knock on wood, that'll be a big one next year. We'll do a family trip to Italy and Greece. And that'll be a big, big thing off my bucket list.
I love that. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear about it or see about it or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
about it.
Oh yeah, I'll
I'm going to
definitely
ask
come
you
up with
about it.
pictures.
Did you go?
Okay. Yeah, you should please hold me accountable to do the things that I say. Yeah. Hmm.
All right. What is the best piece of advice that you were given in your career?
Ooh, that is a good question. Best piece of advice. I think it has come, I mean, this comes from a lot of different places. So I can't think of sort of one person who has said this to me, but just in general, just be you, don't try to imitate somebody else or follow somebody else's career path. Like, you really, one of the things that actually makes you interesting and hireable as a narrator is, finding your unique strengths and abilities and interests, and really, finding what you do well and do that really well. Don't try to follow somebody else's um don't try to be somebody else. And then sort of like tangentially, so because you're a parent, you'll get this. I don't know, your kids might be a little old for Bluey, but
I love Bluey.
I
We did matching
love
pajamas last year for
Bluey.
Bluey.
Yes. Oh my God, we did too. We had like some Christmas Bluey pajamas. I think it was last year, the year before. So we love Bluey in our house. And there's an episode called Baby Races where Chili is recounting like Bluey's, kind of like milestones, right? And how she felt like Bluey was like behind. She wasn't winning the baby races. And so there's at one point where Chili just says, just run your own race. And she's talking to Bluey and kind of like what she learned from that. And so this is the one decoration I have in my booth. I have a little cutout, like printed out picture of Chili from Bluey. And it says, just run your own race. Because I like, see what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, oh God, I'm never gonna, I get down on myself and I'm like, that imposter syndrome is so real. And I'm like, oh man, I'm never gonna get a cool project. I'm never gonna get to work with that author. Like, it's like, that self-doubt kind of creeps in and it's very insidious. So that's my own advice to myself, but it helps me a lot to just think like, just run your own race. Like, just get better today than you were yesterday. Like, keep just like pushing yourself to do better than you did last year, to do, that kind of thing. So that's what I try to keep really, is don't try to impersonate anyone and just run your own race. And that helps me kind of keep going when I'm feeling
Preach,
down.
Chloe, preach.
Yeah.
I hear
Yeah.
you.
Just run. Chili's words of wisdom are so helpful for us all.
When my friends first told me about Bluey, I said, "Oh, isn't that for little kids?" And then I watched it and I was crying. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so
The
deep." And then my kids
the
loved
number
it.
of
And so,
times
yeah.
my kids have left the room and I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
reading. It's so good. It's so smart and it's so like genuine and yeah,
Yes.
same
Yeah.
girl. Yes, love
Yeah.
it so much.
Yeah. We'll be Bluey buddies.
Hmm.
We'll wear our Bluey shirts
Yes.
together.
Oh my gosh. Yay. I will proudly wear my Bluey shirt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, last one. And here at Homeless Mamas, we love talking about finding joys for ourselves as moms. So, what
Mm.
is one thing that you love doing just for you?
Oh man. Save the hardest question for last. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
This one's tough. This is really hard, right? Because like so much of our lives are built around
Mhm.
it's like it's work and it's kids and it's keeping things running. What do I do just for me? I what I do just for me is I make time to go see my girlfriends every year. So I have a really, really close group I have a couple different really good friends, friend groups. And I have a group of girlfriends. They all live in Philly or the surrounding area. And I live in Connecticut now. So I'm the one who's not there anymore. But we have this group text that we keep really active. And every year we try to do a girls' weekend. And sometimes it's just like, somebody's cousin has a cabin in the woods and we just go and sit and eat and drink. And then sometimes we go do stuff. It doesn't really matter, but that is what really fills my cup is my relationships with my girlfriends, my female friends, and who at this point I have known most of them since I was like 18 going to college. And those change and grow, but that is like those are the people who know me. Those are the people that are my like emotional support system. Those are my co-parents when I'm like, oh, I want to murder my kids, and they're like, yes, me too. I'm like, oh, good, it's not just me. And it's like, oh my God, perimenopause is making me crazy. Oh, me too. Oh, great, it's not just me. So that is what I do as I make time. And luckily, my husband's amazing, and he's always like, yeah, he's like, go. He's totally got it. He is so capable. And I can just like walk out the door and not worry about anything because I can just be with my friends. And that's my fuel, I think, is my friendships, my relationships. Yeah.
I could again go on so many tangents with what you just said, but supportive partner, amen to
Mm,
that. And friends, just being able to talk to people that get it and
yes.
see you as and accept you with all the messiness and all the craziness
Hmm.
is huge. Community is huge.
Yeah.
Like I said,
It's
we could
such
talk
a
forever, but
important
is
part.
there
I know,
anything
right?
else that you want to leave our audience with
Oh my
before?
gosh. No, these were such good questions, Amy. These were really like really well thought out, really informed questions. I've done a couple like Instagram lives and stuff but I feel like I really got to like go deep into myself here. So that was so nice. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so lovely. I would do this with you every day if you wanted to. So yeah,
Oh,
this
I
was
love
great.
it. We'll definitely do it again. You tell me when and we'll do it and we'll just chat. Thank you so much, Chloe.